Pickle, it was a full-on week of college football.
Sure was.
We asked some burning questions on Thursday. Let's now close that loop and talk a little bit about the answers to those questions as we take a look back on Week 8 of the college football season. Where do we start, Pickle?
We start with the SMU Mustangs. The question was, is the Mustangs pass defense their Achilles heel? And they won 55-26 over the Green Wave.
Yeah, and I'm not particularly pleased with the way that they played defense in the passing attack. That remains my big concern for them. This is not a good passing offense for Tulane, but they were still able to average, they were in the plus category in EPA.
Right.
They threw for their quarterback Michael Pratt threw for 234 yards and 3 touchdowns. You don't want that. By the way, did you see who got in for Tulane?
No.
Kai Horton.
Oh, no kidding.
From Carthage. Yeah, he
How
got
about
in.
that?
Got in garbage time.
I missed it.
Anyway, I remain concerned about SMU's passing defense. That is going to be the big question, in my opinion, going
especially
into the
this
game
upcoming
this week against Houston. But that said, it doesn't matter when Tanner Mordecai is one of the best players in the country. And he's been one of the best players in the country. He was absolutely outstanding in this one. 3 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, threw for 427 yards. He's been doing that every week. And if this were a right and just world, Tanner Mordecai would be in the Heisman conversation. But it's not because he plays at SMU.
Yep.
So that's not fair. In any case, he's been great. It doesn't really matter that their pass defense – it hasn't mattered yet. That I think their pass defense is only we'll find out a lot more this week against Houston.
That's a big game. I think is Craven going to be down there?
I believe that's correct.
I think that's his game this week.
Correct. What's next?
Up next, this question isn't aging super well. Is this
actually
the question itself?
I would say that it's aged exceptionally
well. The question is this Tech's last best chance to get bowl eligible? In case you missed it or have been living under a rock for maybe the past 24 hours, Tech flubbed it to Kansas State 25-24, and now they don't have a head coach.
Yeah, Matt Wells was fired yesterday. It's going to be Sonny Cumbie taking over on an interim basis the rest of the way. And yeah, it was their last best chance. And most especially, this was a situation where they gave away a game to a team that they're better than. And I think that's probably the last straw. You can make an argument that their 2 losses before that, right? They lost to Texas. Texas is pretty darn good, I would say.
Yeah, and they were on the road that game.
Right. The loss to TCU is aging like milk, but
yes.
Those were games that you could at least squint and say, you know what, we got beat by TCU. Texas was just better than us. This is a game they gave away. They were much better for long stretches of this game, but the bottom line is that the offense never developed any sort of real threat. The passing attack just really struggled with Henry Colombi. They were able to run the ball a little bit. That was probably their best effort, but really it was the defense that led the way, and the defense just couldn't hold up. So Matt Wells is out of a job. The big question now for Tech, I think, is what kind of program do you want to be? Because I think you look around at the way that the Big 12 is going right now, and obviously it's going to change significantly whenever Texas and OU leave, and BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and Memphis. Is that right? No, who's the other one? Cincinnati. I'm blanking on who the fourth one. BYU.
You already said that.
BYU, Houston, Cincinnati. There's one more that I'm forgetting. When they join the conference. I'm obviously really excited about them joining the conference. UCF.
There
UCF.
you go.
When they join the conference. But there's an argument that ever since Mike Leach left, they have just been trying to find the next Mike Leach. And they've been trying to run the air raid, right? Tommy Tuberville to a certain extent, Cliff Kingsbury most definitely, and then Matt Wells again to a certain extent.
Yeah, and
I don't know if that's the way to go now.
No,
do you want to be that change up, right?
We always say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it's kind of like it is broke now. Like it is time to fix it.
It's like I think that the air raid, like Tech was, because they had Mike Leach. They're in many ways an innovator, and they were on the front edge of the air raid wave. But now the air raid wave has washed over all of college football, and it's kind of receded. Okay, so what are you going to be now? And I think that was apparent, not to draw a comparison to another Big 12 bunkmate, but I think that was apparent with what Baylor did to replace Matt Rule. They bring in
defensive guy.
They bring in a defensive guy. They bring in Dave Aranda, right? How do you set yourself apart in this new look Big 12?
Mm-hmm.
An extremely important hire coming.
It's like you can compare that almost to what we saw with Gary Patterson earlier this year of trying to run his same stuff that he's been doing. And it's like, no, you have the star running back. Just use that. Like, adjust to personnel.
Right. Well, and have a defense. Anyway, that's
that always helps.
Anyway, Tech's probably not going bowling. And as I mentioned yesterday, I think that they fired him now so that he can't backdoor his way into a win, because there's still some sore feelings from Tech folks that Cliff Kingsbury they held on to him too long. I think they want to avoid that. So anyway, what's next, Pickle?
Up next was Texas State. Are you ready to declare Jake Spavital's 2020-2021 recruiting plan a failure and another loss, 28-16 against Georgia State? And yes. It's a failure.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad, guys. And again, a big reason why, like, they couldn't run the ball effectively at all. Brady McBride is, I think, trying his best behind an offensive line that just is not good enough right now. Georgia State's a decent team, but they were able to pretty much do whatever they wanted offensively. They rang up 503 yards of total offense. Don't be skewed by the numbers that Texas State rang up 400 yards of total offense. I don't think the offense was particularly good in this game, and yeah, I don't know. This is pretty disappointing. Obviously, when you're -2 in the turnover margin, that's not going to help too. So I don't know. I think it's a failure, and Ishmael has brought up a good point last week, and I'll keep hammering it home. When you take that risk and you go, we're going to go into the transfer portal and we're going to bring in all these guys and stuff like that. If it wins, then awesome. That can fuel your recruiting going forward. What if it loses? Mm-hmm. Don't you just have to do it again?
Yep.
And aren't you just stuck in a vicious cycle?
Especially
that's kind of the problem that they face now.
You know that we've heard it from high school coaches, like, that didn't set well with them.
No.
So it's like that doesn't help his case at all either.
Anyway, what's next, Pickle?
Hoot.
That makes me sad.
Hoot.
Let's talk about
How
things
about
that make me
something
happy.
that makes you happy? Is Rice's offense doomed in 2021, or can they dig out of a ditch? And how about that 30-24 conference win over the Blazers out of UAB?
Did you watch this game?
I did not.
I watched fourth quarter of this game. UAB had what would have been likely a game-winning touchdown with like 9 seconds left, called back on what is a very good holding call. It was a holding call.
Okay, so
it's a legit call. If you call him, he's tackling him. It's a hold.
Okay.
I think even for the people who are like, oh, they hold on every play, like, this was a hold. Mm-hmm. So they call it back, and Rice is able to hold on for a win. Rice did that thing again where they go and they win a game they shouldn't. Mm-hmm. On the road again, by the way, because they did that at Marshall last year.
Yep. And Marshall was ranked top 25.
Now, look, maybe they found something, because they went with Wiley Green in this game. And Wiley Green was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Wiley Green probably gave them their, like, outside of what happened against Texas Southern, Wiley Green gave them their best quarterback play of the year. He was very solid. And when we mentioned yesterday, August Petrie III had a huge game. I thought Jake Bailey was really good in this game too. They were excellent. They were able to run the ball a little bit, not super effectively, but they were able to run the ball, a little bit, and it worked. The defense made plays. The defense came up with big plays when it counted, and they come up with a big win. Well, is it doomed? They're not going to be a top half of the conference offense.
No, but got winnable games.
If they can just be serviceable.
That's
what they were. They were a serviceable offense in this game, and look what happened. They go and they beat a team like UAB.
I was going to say, if you look at the rest of their schedule, too, you can beat North Texas.
Yes, you can.
I think Charlotte could be beatable. Now, that's on the road, and that's a long trip, and so that's a little tough. But if they play, UAB slaughtered North Texas, so, And then La Tech has shown that they can be super vulnerable, too, and that's at home. So it's not out of the realm that they can get some
It's not.
wins.
If they can get that offense going, that's been their big problem. But yeah, maybe they found something in Wiley Green. Maybe something's finally clicked. What's next, Pickle?
Sticking with Conference USA, let's think positive. What does North Texas do well right now? And they dropped another one, 35-26.
Okay, yes.
But first half didn't look terrible for once.
For once, they are okay. For once, they didn't just come out of the gates just stubbing their own toe.
Mm-hmm.
They jumped out to a lead, and there was a minute there where I was like,
oh, they're going to do it.
they're going to screw around and beat Liberty?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't.
Because they didn't come out the second half. They only play one half.
Yeah, it's a weird...
Why can you only play one half? Even if it's behind in the second half or in front in the first half, they cannot put together a full game.
No. What I think is interesting is that the offense put up some decent numbers. They put 463 yards of total offense.
Mm-hmm.
But they could not... What was their third? I would love to know what their third down conversion rate was because it wasn't good.
No.
They were a team that they benefited by having some good starting field position.
Mm-hmm.
Their special teams was, pretty decent in this game, and they lived on a couple of explosive plays.
Yep.
I don't really know how they stayed in this game aside from Malik Willis was bad. I don't really know how they stayed in this game.
Well, he was also out. He went out.
He went out at halfway through the game, and they brought in Jonathan Bennett, and he led them to victory. This was a team that this felt like their last gasp. The defense, I think, played probably its best game of the year. They were getting after it. They sacked Malik Willis 6 times. I mean, they were all over him. They came up with big plays. But in the end, it just the bottom fell out at some point, and part of it is here's a big part of it. Part of it is, do you know how many plays? Let me make sure. So North Texas ran 104 plays in this game.
Mm-hmm.
104 plays. That works, but when you're only moving the ball, they were in 93 plays from scrimmage. They were basically, they gave up 5.5 yards per play to Liberty. The defense ran out of gas despite not being on the field all that much. They started off hot, then they weren't able to make a stop down the stretch.
Yeah, and it's like that. It was proof because I was there for the second half of the game, and it was proof that that's a team that doesn't know how to win because that's the other thing. They're so used to playing down and trying to dig themselves out of a hole that when they had the lead and needed to go out there and just keep playing with what they were doing, they tried to start doing too much, and it got sloppy.
Yeah, I don't know. They did not. I don't think they ran the ball particularly effectively in this game,
did not.
And that kind of hurt them. Even though they ran for 251 yards, a lot of those were kind of on big chunk plays. I don't know. It was a weird game that, I think if it gives you confidence, it gives you confidence. But I don't know. I think that this was a little bit more of a bit of a dead cat bounce there for North Texas. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, we talked some Cougar football here. Has Houston quietly emerged as the best college team in Texas, and they snuck one out over East Carolina.
I kind of told
overtime.
you guys that East Carolina is better than you think.
Yeah, 31-24.
Now, this is okay. I want to be clear. This is a weird game for a variety of different reasons. One of which is the game kicked off. The game was scheduled to kick off at 3.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't kick off till 8:30.
Yeah.
Because there was big weather in the Houston area and they weren't able to get going. I'm not here to tell. If you are, look, they don't ask you how, they ask you how many, right? This was a gross game for Houston. This was a gross game for Houston, most especially the Houston offense. I thought they were really, really unfortunately bad in this game. They did not pass the ball well. This was a big step backwards from Clayton Tune. Part of it, again, weather and stuff like that, but they took a big step back. He took 5 sacks. But the thing that keeps coming up for them is they make big splash plays defensively. They sacked. I think they had 6 sacks. They had 8 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and then they forced 5 fumbles and they recovered 3 of them. You know what I mean? This is a sloppy game. This is an ugly game. But what did we say? Win your clunkers.
Yep.
This is a clunker. They did not look good in this game, but they came away with a win. Their defense kind of bailed them out here. The offense is going to need to be better against SMU this week. Really, look, you get your win. You don't apologize for it, but it was an ugly, ugly game. But yeah, win your clunkers, and they won their clunker, especially in a game that got delayed by 5 hours.
Yeah.
What's next, Pickle?
Up next, it was our small school game of the week between Tarleton and Midwestern State. We asked, what can we learn from this WAC versus LAC or LSC matchup? Tarleton pulls one out 17-14 over the Stangs.
Yeah, this was a super tight game.
Yeah.
And in the end, this game got real hairy. Because in the fourth quarter, this game goes to the fourth quarter 7-7. Okay. Tarleton then goes and they score early in the fourth quarter, take a lead, and then and by the way, Max Maxfield got the touchdown catch, the pride of Amarillo, and then they get a field goal with like 4:37 left, and you're like, oh, okay, well, it's 17-7. This is an ugly game, but we're able to get a win. Instead, this game got very hairy down the stretch. That Midwestern State gets the ball down 10. They go down and score in about a minute, and I believe they had the ball. Let me make sure of this. I'm fairly certain that they got the ball back. Yeah, with about 3 seconds, or they got the ball with 3 seconds left, and were throwing into the end zone. And it got intercepted. Basically, they were like give a lot of credit to Midwestern State. They were homecoming cannon fodder. And they gave them everything they wanted. Of note, Tarleton did set an attendance record, so congratulations to them. They got a big win. You don't apologize for wins, but I think this to me solidifies that Midwestern State may in fact be the favorite there in the Lone Star Conference. I think that's really impressive. And by the way, their next game for Tarleton, you probably better figure your stuff out because Sam Houston is coming to town. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, let's talk about the Roadrunners. The question was, Sincere McCormick over-under on 125.5 rushing yards to preface the score, 45-16 win over La Tech, and they're up to number 23 in the national ranking.
Darn right, they're the number 23. Sincere McCormick, 113 yards.
Ooh.
Under. Now,
You took under, I think.
I did. Now, he had three touchdowns, but here's the thing. He only carried the ball 18 times, which is
and 3
light
touchdowns,
work for him, right? I mean, he was spectacular. The whole team looked great. I mean, this was a real showcase there. I thought that they were, pretty much very solid. You can make a real argument that like the rushing game actually was not up to snuff. That they weren't, but basically, whenever you do that, like you're picking nits at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Harris, I thought was really good, super sharp, 13-17, 194 yards and 2 touchdowns. Didn't take a sack. This is they were +2 in the turnover margin. The defense was exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
Defense was awesome, especially the pass defense. I thought they made Austin Kendall look really, really pedestrian in this game. Like again, the numbers don't tell you that because he threw for 322 yards, but he got sacked 6 times. He was on the run. He was consistently under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
They were causing havoc. They impact. They call it. There's a rate called havoc plays,
mm-hmm.
which is like tackle for loss or a sack or no gain or pass breakup, things like that. 23% of the defensive plays were havoc plays.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's exceptional. They were impacting the passing game in a major, major way.
And now they have a bye week before
the biggest game,
ever,
the biggest UTSA UTEP game of all time.
Yeah, it's even, I don't know if the viewers saw it, but it's moved back to they had to move back the time because it's on national TV. You can watch it on ESPN2. How about that?
Hey, game day
in El Paso.
Game day. Go to El Paso, you cowards.
Trust us. Go to L&J's.
What's next, Pickle?
Up next, we are going to head over to some SEC play. A&M completely takes care of the Gamecocks 44-14. And the question was, did you know that they have a traveling trophy?
They did. And you know what? And it's never left A&M. And we told you guys that
yeah.
You don't need to watch this game.
No.
And you didn't. This game,
good on you, Texas A&M, for getting what you needed done.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. This game was not a 30-point game. This game was more like a 50-point game. I mean, they slaughtered. This game was, I think, 34-0 at halftime or something like that. I mean, this game was over from the word go. They got a big game running the ball, which was nice to see. Devonna Chan and Isaiah Spiller each go over 100 yards. I'm still a little concerned about Zach Calzada. But
concerned
the
about that
defense
offensive
absolutely
line.
smothered South Carolina. That's all that matters. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, we head over to the Big 12. I think I'm about to sneeze.
Here it comes.
What's the key for TCU beating West Virginia on Saturday night?
You gonna sneeze?
I was thinking about it.
Is this TCU West Virginia game making you sick?
Yeah.
Well, the key was don't let a mediocre offense body you. And then they gave up 400.
Final score 29-17
They gave
West
up,
Virginia, by
and
the way.
they gave up almost 500 yards total offense.
It was just butt.
The defense was horrifying. in this game.
Garbage.
The defense was horrifying. You know that havoc play rate that we were talking about how you're like impacting the game in a major way.
Yeah, they were
on
like in the
defensive side?
negatives.
Do you know how many havoc plays they had? Would you care to guess?
Maybe 2.
One.
1. I was going to give
They
them
had
the benefit
one.
of the doubt with 2.
They had 1. I think they had one. They had 1 pass breakup.
And like you're at
They had
home.
1 pass breakup.
You welcome
The
in
defense
West Virginia to
was
the Carter.
miserable.
How do you
Miserable.
do that?
And look, it's not like the offense I think did its part. They weren't able to run the ball as effectively as they wanted to. And then they were chasing the game a lot, so it put Max Duggan in a bad situation. But that's beside the point. The defense was miserable, absolutely miserable. I don't know.
Yeah,
Look, I'm not calling for Gary Patterson's job because then he'll just complain about me at a press conference. But like something's got to change. Something's got to change because their defense right now. And this is not an end-all, be-all, right? This is a bad stat. In fact, no, I'll give you an advanced stat, okay? As far as that EPA, expected points per play average, on defense, they rank 125th in the nation. 125th. The offense, pretty good. But the defense is 125th in the nation.
And you look at,
Something's got to change.
The remainder of the schedules, they're going to Kansas State, which is never a fun place to play at.
They better stink and win that game.
You got Baylor coming up, which
feels like a loss.
Oklahoma State
feels like a
loss. Kansas, you
better win that game.
Better pull that out because then you have Iowa State in Ames.
5-7 is likely the most likely outcome.
I don't know if they win anything other than that Kansas game, the way that they're playing right now.
Disappointing. Is that it?
That's it.
All right.
Sorry,
I
didn't get to say that was the last one because I was about to sneeze everywhere.
There's your college football work, bro. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.